Okay, let's go ahead and get started. Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you so much for joining us. My name is Ken Garcia. I'm the Senior Communications Manager here at NCCER. I want to thank you for joining us on this webinar to talk about the updates to HVAC and R Level 1. Joining us today is Lauren Corley. She's the NCCER Project Manager, and Troy Staton, NCCER Technical Writer. If you do have any questions, be sure to use the Q&A button there at the bottom of your screen, and we will try to get to those questions at the end. And we are recording this webinar, so it will be posted on our website, and we will be able to email it to you because you've registered and you are participating. So without any further ado, I'm going to hand things over to Lauren and Troy and let them talk about all the great updates that are part of HVAC and R Level 1. Lauren, take it away.
Thank you, Ken, and welcome everyone, whether you're watching with us live or recording later. We're excited to kick off and talk about this release of HVAC Level 1 6th edition. But before we get too carried away, I just wanted to touch base on what is NCCER. You may not be familiar with us. We are the National Center for Construction, Education, and Research, and so we are dedicated to building a safe, productive, and sustainable workforce of craft professionals. And the way that we do that is by developing standardized training and credentialing for the construction industry. And right now, as you can see, we have about 70 titles of curriculum in which we do that. And there's also associated assessments, and some of those are translated into Spanish. And we also have over 6,000 accredited training and assessment locations across the US that's administering and utilizing these resources that we develop. And so as a part of that, HVAC Level 1, we can dive into what we've done this go around on the curriculum. Most notably, maybe off the bat, most noticeably is the title change that this HVAC book is now HVAC and R to accurately reflect the refrigeration coverage that's in the curriculum. And so we're excited about that update this go around. And just some highlights, we'll dive deeper into this content later in the webinar, but we have enhanced the NCCERconnect materials, which is our online portion of this curriculum. Lots of good stuff to talk about there. We've also incorporated and provided a lot of video content to all users of the curriculum. We've added in on-the-job case studies that create this element of like practicality and what trainees can expect to make the most effective on the job as soon as possible. We've also improved and enhanced our electrical safety content in one of the modules in this first level. And also we're really excited to boast about this HVAC excellence endorsement, which just means that our curriculum has met the standards, the established standards set out by HVAC excellence. And so you can see that on our cover as well. And then on the bottom right of the screen, you will see the availability of these products. So when can you get your hands on everything we're talking about today? The print book is already available. So it's already accessible to you. And then our e-text, as well as all of those Connect materials that I mentioned, the online components that we'll discuss, they'll be available this fall of 2022. And the Spanish translation of Level 1 is currently in development as well. And that will be available by 2023. So we can move on to the next slide here. Thank you. And I'm going to hand it over to Troy, who is our subject matter expert and technical writer on this program.
Very good. Thank you. Welcome, everybody. I'll review these modules a little bit just to give you an idea. Some of you may be familiar with these modules already. Some people maybe not. Level 1 is basically foundation material for the HVAC and R technician. In our introduction to HVAC and R, Module 1, we're trying to introduce the trainee to the world of an HVAC and R technician and what it's like to do this kind of job and the many variations there are for positions in this craft. We've also talked a little bit more heavily than we did in the past about the laws of thermodynamics, the very basic laws. And we've updated our content in reference to licensing and certification. Basic electricity is exactly what it sounds. We've updated our performance tasks just a little bit. And as always, we've enhanced coverage of electrical safety and the required PPE. One of the things that we felt were lacking were a good solid discussion of gloves used in electrical service. So we've covered that. Always trying to stay out in front of safety. I don't know that you ever actually get in front of the topic all the way, but it is certainly one of the things we always try to do is maintain as much safety coverage as we possibly can. Introduction to heating. We've also added an additional performance task there and included better coverage of our temperature rise calculations. On the introduction to cooling side, which of those of you who are familiar with that module know it's a beast of a module. It's a very large module to cover. And so we've removed some coverage there that we've transferred elsewhere on some of the more unique components that are involved in the HVAC world. Things like condenser water valves and evaporator pressure regulators, things of that nature. We've moved on to a little later down the road. Basic copper and plastic piping practices. One of the things where we were a little weak here, I believe, was in coverage of today's push to connect and press to connect fittings used in refrigerant piping. That was a really important topic to cover because they are really coming on strong and being used in a lot of different locations. So we've covered that very carefully, both push to connect and press to connect fittings. We've improved our coverage of pressure testing refrigerant lines, and in the plastic side of that module, we've added detailed coverage of PEX tubing and how to make those connections as well. Basic carbon steel piping practices for most of us in the HVAC and our industry, at least in the beginning days, that has a lot to do with natural gas piping. One of the things we were weak in, I feel there, were coverage of pipe dies and pipe threads in general, and a little bit more information about how dies are selected and the threads involved. One thing I want to mention about HVAC in our level 1 is that the exams, which we know are key elements to this program, obviously trainees have to pass the exam to get through this module, as well as the performance task. And more so probably than any product I know of in our history, the exams in HVAC level 1 have been scrutinized by more people and more carefully for a longer period of time, probably than any exams we've ever had before. We've had a lot of SMEs look over these exam questions and taken in a lot of input about them. So we're very comfortable they're solid and as good as they could possibly be. And for that, I'm going to bounce it right back to Ms. Corley to talk a little bit about some of the layout changes you'll see in the upcoming edition.
Thank you, Troy. Yeah, that was like all the meat of it. And now I get to talk about the presentation of it. So we're excited. This paper copy, you'll see this is our new layout demonstrated on the screen. And there's a couple of neat features that I wanted to point out. First of all, you'll notice like the wider margins. Before we had the two double column format to our curriculum, which would tend to chop up sentences or words more frequently than we'd like and make the readability more difficult. So we feel like this is more accessible to our students. Also, you'll see on the left side of the screen those color tabs. So Introduction to HVAC and R is the teal, and then module 03102 behind it is an orange. And so when the trainees are holding the book, they can flip through and easily see which module, how many pages pertain to which module, and they can better access the material. A couple of other neat features in this new layout. You'll see there's the wide margin and then the more narrow margin. And in that narrow margin on this screen, you'll see the trade terms called out. So previously in the books, you would see all of the definitions at the beginning of the module, and then it's highlighted in the text. But this new layout allows the term to be highlighted and defined on the same page, side by side, just to aid in interpretation and understanding. As well, the pictures are, because of this double margin layout, our pictures and images are able to be more closely in line with where they are called out in the curriculum. Previously, you may have said, hey, refer to figure 24, and then it's 7 pages, after it in the book. But this has been a solution to that problem, to where that's really been knitted and tied together, this new layout. Also, in the math modules, there's a new step-by-step equation feature just to provide more clarity around math, we'll talk a little bit more about that later in this presentation, what we've done to make that more accessible to our trainees as well. So that is the layout. And up next, I am going to talk about the videos. So this is exciting. This is one of the major updates to this edition is providing these videos in both the textbook, which we'll talk about how that's possible, and on our Connect resources. So what we've done is, you can see here on the right side of the screen, the videos that are associated with level 1. Some of the topics covered are trade mathematics, current measurement, resistance measurement, voltage measurement. So really getting our trainees familiar with these different measuring tools that they're going to be utilizing throughout the program, as well as some different piping techniques: cutting, joining, reaming, threading pipe. So these videos were developed under the guidance of our SMEs of, what do our trainees need to see? What takes them the next step from the text? We've described procedures, we've described everything in words. What helps with visualization? And so a lot of these are based off of our performance tasks, which is a term we've used today as well. And just to clarify, our curriculum has a knowledge-based component and performance-based component. So like Troy mentioned, we're really proud and sure and confident in our exams, which test the knowledge base. What can they learn from reading the textbook? And then our performance tasks are, now can you do it? Now can you apply this training that you've acquired? And so these videos help kind of bridge the gap to create that example and visualization of what we're asking the trainees to do. And I also wanted to highlight the top 6 videos you'll see here are our trade mathematics videos. And so what we hear a lot about in a lot of our crafts is we're not math people. We really struggle with math, whether you're an instructor or the trainee or anyone. How do we make this practical? And so we're really proud. There's these 6 videos have been developed with the mindset of, I need to know what I need to know for my craft, and I don't need to know all the theory, but how can I apply these concepts in a practical way? And how can we introduce math to people who, dub themselves as not math people? And so this has made it really accessible. And so we're really proud and excited for those videos as a tool for our instructors in teaching, but also as a reference for our trainees during their development. So how can we provide these videos in our textbook? I think we're all becoming more and more familiar with the QR code, and so we've been excited to incorporate that to some of our latest titles. And so you'll see a QR code which will link you to a digital resources page, and this QR code is provided at the front of each module in the book. And trainees will see the full listing of the videos provided in that level. So they'll just scan the QR code with their phone and it'll take them to this landing page, and they can click on their particular video they're wanting to reference. So that's a big update with this level, with this level. So, and the other big updates are also digital here on the next slide. So you've heard me mention NCCERconnect, which is our online learning platform for our curriculum. And these are just some of the components that are in the Connect. If you choose to utilize the curriculum in this way. So there's self-guided learning, which is brand new. This is one of the first crafts to get this feature, and Troy will speak more to that in a moment. There's also dynamic presentations, which are a new iteration of our instructor resources. There are practice quizzes. I will say there are also concept checks, but if you're a Connect user, you're already familiar with concept checks, and practice quizzes are new to this edition. So it's just more practice questions for our trainees in this digital online platform. There are trade terms quizzes for level 1, review questions, more questions for trainees to practice and get familiar with the curriculum. And there's also interactive figures, which take the images in the curriculum and kind of create a dynamic activity for them that can be assigned by trainees or like I said, utilize as homework to familiarize the trainees with the information they need to know. And with that, I will let Troy dive into the exciting world of self-guided learning.
Thank you much, Lauren. This is an interesting new addition to the products, the instructional resources that we offer to go along with all of our programs. And this is a new one. It's kind of exciting. The self-guided learning programs are, number one, interactive. They are designed to be used by the trainee, not so much as a classroom resource. Really probably don't have a lot of use inside the classroom itself. They are for self-use, and thus the term self-guided learning. There's a certain level of interactive. They are scripted, so there's audio that goes along with it to guide the trainee through it, and they are designed to run for around 20 minutes or so. Obviously, you can't teach a trainee everything you'd like to know in one of our modules in 20-minute interactive video. So it's not intended by any means to replace the trainee guide or replace the content thereof. But I think they're probably going to be best used in two different ways. One, they're a great place for an instructor to send their trainees to get started as they begin to start a new module, as they kick one off. Spending 20 minutes with this for a trainee will give them the gist of what they're going to see. Will create a little bit of interactivity so that they're engaged in the learning a little bit more. And of course, one of the things we cannot do in the printed page is to make anything animated. So we've animated a number of things on these self-guided learning programs to kind of help learning a little bit too, so it's a little easier to understand and comprehend. I think another good place for it to learn is for a trainee once they start to get to the end of a module and they're beginning to prepare for that module exam. It's a great place to go back and run it again. And as a trainee, or as an instructor, I would recommend to trainees that view it with a little bit of different eye, a little different attention this time. You should probably understand everything it's going to present at that particular point in time, but be thinking about the other things that you know that go beyond what you see on the self-guided learning program and in front of you. And think about other questions or something maybe you are not clear on, so you know what you can go back to the TG and study. So I think they're going to be a valuable new resource added to the things that trainees have available to them specifically to accentuate learning as they move through the program.
Thank you, Troy. And a part of that interactivity I'm thinking about across a lot of these resources is that feedback option. So in the self-guided learning and in these dynamic presentations that I'm about to discuss, when there is this opportunity for the trainee to engage with a section review question or something, say they get it wrong, they get another chance, and the program itself will also refer them to where they can find the answer and some context to guide that learning so they don't just get stumped as well. And so as far as dynamic presentations, as I mentioned, this is a different way to present some of our instructor resources. And so this is an online tool, and it can be scrolled through on screen, and it does have that interactive question base, but it's just a different platform. It can be used by the instructor or by the trainee individually as well. So that's available with our Connect. And then our e-text is up next. And so our e-text is what it sounds like. It's an online version of the curriculum as well as a part of the Connect package. And some neat features about the e-text are, as you can see on the screen, the trade terms there are bolded, and if you hover or click on the trade term, the definition will appear right there. The figure call out right next to it, you see figure 23. Once you click on that, it'll scroll you on the page to where that image occurs. So it's a lot of interactive linking, and you can use this toolbar on the left side of the screen to see the layout of the module as well. And there are the section review questions and answers, and everything that the trainee could need in the book, but online on this online platform. And I think that's the end of all the new information we have for you. I did just want to remind you, we talked about a lot of different, features associated with this update. And so just for an overview, the paper book is currently available. You can order it now. The Connect resources, to include the e-text and the self-guided learning, the dynamic presentations, everything we just discussed, that will be available in the fall of 2022. And then, like I mentioned, the Spanish translation of the book as well will be available in 2023.
All right. Well, Lauren and Troy, thank you so much for talking about all these great updates that are part of HVAC and R. If anybody does have any questions, by all means, please definitely put them into the Q&A button. So while we wait for any of those to pop in, I'll go ahead and ask one here myself. Now, I know there are case studies that are associated with this. Can you talk a little bit about what those case studies will do as far as helping build that foundation within this program?
Sure, certainly. Troy, you want me to take it? You want to take it?
Sure, go ahead.
Okay. So what we thought about these case studies is this is sort of an asset that a lot of instructors have in their, experienced instructors have in their toolbox, right? They've seen some things in the field, and that's really a benefit that they can bring to their individual classroom. Well, we wanted to broaden that across all of our users, and so we've been discussing with our subject matter experts, what are some instances, what are some things that went well, and times things didn't go well, and what did you have to learn from that, and how can we incorporate that for all of our users, not just the lucky students in those individuals' classrooms. And so those are incorporated throughout the curriculum to kind of take these concepts and theories and introductory level modules and make it real and give them a scenario and learn how to apply the content.
I agree 100%, Lauren. They are valuable. The case studies themselves give that opportunity for application. And I had an old instructor many years ago who was actually in his 90s when he was teaching me ammonia refrigeration, and his primary tool was to state a fact, state something that was very important, possibly about pipe sizing or something, and then he would tell a very interesting story about how he learned that. And that always gave it great value, how he figured this out and how he understood it. So he had a lot of experience, and these case studies bring us an opportunity, and you'll see far more of them, I believe, in the future, by the way. Since level 1 is very foundational material, it probably doesn't lend itself to case studies like some of our more advanced and more challenging material does going forward, especially in the realm of troubleshooting. So you'll see more of these case studies going forward. But they really are valuable tools so that a trainee or someone new to a craft can understand why that's an important fact. It's kind of like math in a way. It doesn't seem very important until you actually need to make use of it, and you need it. And it's the same way for some of this other information.
And very quickly, you were talking about those videos, which I think are fantastic updates. That just scan the QR code and it takes you over to these videos. Talk a little bit about how that's going to really help with the education. The benefit of this update is having those videos.
Definitely. I think we're in a time where everyone is, really comfortable with learning through video, through visualization. That's kind of our first thought. And so we wanted to incorporate that into the kind of the suite of resources that we're offering with our curriculum. And so it's with you on the go. Once you use the QR code, you can save that link on your phone if you don't want to carry around the book with you on the site, but they're there for reference at any time, just on the trainee's phone where they're used to getting their education.
Yeah, one of the important things about that, I think, is that we have to recognize that in-class instruction is probably more limited these days than it has been in the past. We were already headed to where more and more of our users would like to see more readily available resources to them that they don't have to be in the classroom to make use of. Not a whole lot better than a great instructor demonstrating live how to do a task in the shop. We all get that. But it's a new world. It's a different world. And I don't know that we'll ever go back to that world where we can be together as much as we want to in the future. And there's a lot of value to these resources. So what it does, the videos, when there are not opportunities for an instructor to demonstrate something live in the shop, in that kind of classroom environment, these extra videos help that demonstration. And even when there are live demonstrations available, you get to see it done 2 or 3 different ways. And that, I think there's also value in that.
All right. Well, thank you so much for your time today as we talked about the updates again to HVAC and R. We will have this webinar posted on our website, NCCER.org. And we will also be sure to send out an email to those of you who participated. So thank you all so much for joining us. Have a wonderful day.
Very good. Thanks, Ken.